Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Look here. The pastor is confronted by his assistant, right? Now, keep up with me. You know, the assistant is with Sidepiece number 1, right? Pastor got Sidepiece number 2, a lady that's a little bit older, more mature. She ain't tripping about nothing. He can come and see her when he wants to, and if he don't, he don't. She keeping it moving, going on with her life. So, perfect situation for him, right, with this wandering eye. Because the first lady's starting to question things, right? You know what I'm saying? And the assistant is trying to find out. He feels like he needs to. And he notices those 2 numbers on the phone. One of them is his gal, the other one he don't know. But they're cryptic, in his opinion. But the pastor talks to Sidepiece number 1, and he gets her up to speed as to what's going on. He wants her to find out from her boyfriend, his assistant, what is it that he thinks he knows. Because he could blow the whole top off of everything and ruin everything for the pastor. So she gets with her boyfriend. And she doesn't want to bring it straight up, right? But she asks, how's he been doing, what's been going on and all this. And she's pushing and she's pushing. She knows how to get him to talk. She knows how to get him to talk. So he can't help himself. So he asked her, he said, look, he said, I work for the pastor. And, sometimes I have his phone, lying to her. And he said, I noticed your number in it. And she was like, oh. She said, like, yeah, he hits me up every now and then, checking up on me, asking about how I was doing. Because, we became cool when he used to come down to the church and speak, in the state that she's from. She got a whole cover story for all of those text messages. Because they're not direct, So he asked her about, what does it mean when he's saying that something, don't be late and all this and that. So that catches her off guard because it's like, how is he seeing these text messages? Because she's been assured by the pastor that he's erasing all of this stuff, right? So there's no way that she's texting him at the same time that the assistant, her boyfriend, has the phone for him to see it. So she's suspicious now. She knows something is up. She assumes that he must have an app on that phone that's giving those texts to him. So she said, I'm not familiar with that. It must be a wrong number. And see, sometimes when you're in love, you'll hear somebody tell you a lie, and you'll accept the lie because you don't want to know the truth. So that's what her boyfriend did. And she knew that he didn't believe her, but she knew that she couldn't admit to him that she had been seeing the pastor for some time now. So the assistant, he goes back to the pastor's wife, the first lady, and he tells the first lady, he says, something's up, but I'm not sure what it is. He doesn't tell her about the 2 numbers. He tells her about the 1 number in the phone, right? He doesn't tell her about his girlfriend. So the first lady, she confronts the pastor. She gets emotional with it. She ain't holding nothing back. She said, who have you been talking to when you go out of town? So the pastor says, I meet with a lot of people doing a lot of different things. He said, is anybody in particular that you're talking about? Now keep in mind at this point, he's getting rid of all those messages. There's no way that he would know that unless something's on the phone. So the pastor meets up with Sidepiece number 1, and she figures out, oh, you got an app on your phone. It's one of those cryptic apps at that. Yeah, it monitors the emails and phone calls, right? So every phone call, every email that the pastor had been making since that app had been put on his phone by his assistant, well, guess what? He has those messages. So the pastor one day, he calls him into the office and he tells him, he says, look, I got a lot of things that I need to be taken care of, right? And I'm going to need you to do some things for me. And he said, I'm going to need you to go out of town and do them, though. So the assistant, of course, says, yeah, I'll do anything for you, pastor. So he sends him out of town. So the assistant asked the pastor, he said, is it okay if my girlfriend goes with me? The pastor tells him, sure, okay, no problem at all, right? You can do that. So the assistant goes home. He tells his girlfriend that he's going to be going out of town for a while to take care of some business for the pastor in some other states. And he wants to take her with him. And she says, sure, I'll go with you. You know what I'm saying? So as they're getting ready to leave and they roll out, she's talking to him about the questions that he had been asking her about, the number and the pastor and all of those different types of things, right? And she said, did you ever figure out what was going on with that? And she told him bluntly, no, not really. I mean, he told her bluntly, not really. But the pastor is doing something. And she said, oh, and left it at that. So now while they're out of town, she figures out that the pastor is trying to send some text messages. You know what I'm saying? Well, the pastor's sending her some text messages, but they've already set this up to see how he reacts to it, right? So the pastor sent her some text messages asking, how's things going? Are you okay? You know what I'm saying? Those types of things, right? So her boyfriend, the assistant, he sees these text messages come through. And she's watching it while she's on the texting. She's watching his response. And she said, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Just, can't wait to get there. Can't wait to spend time with, my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. All of those types of things, right? He said, well, good. I'm glad you're happy. Just checking on you. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking about you and all that old kind of stuff. Now, keep in mind, all of this is set up as a ruse. So the boyfriend, he can't say anything about it, right, in that moment. So he waits, and they get to the hotel. And he said, who were you talking to when we were on the plane, when you was texting? And she said, I was the pastor. He was texting me, asking me some questions, how was I doing and all this and that. And he said, well, why wouldn't he be texting me? And she said, I don't know. He said that, I was on his mind and he was wondering, he looks out for me since he knows that I'm down here, I'm from another place and all this and that, right? Remember I told you that we got to know each other when we were in another city, when I was in another city, and he used to come down into the church. And he looks at me, you know what I'm saying, as family. So the assistant is starting to boil up. He's getting a little jealous about that. He's wondering what's really going on with that, right? Because it's odd that he didn't text him. And right in that moment when he was thinking about the pastor that hadn't texted him, he gets a text message. And he asks him, how's it going? And he tells the pastor, we just got here, so on and so forth, all this and that, right? So the pastor tells him, he said, yeah, I had got it such and such and talked to her, and she said that everything was going fine on the plane or whatever. I just wanted to touch bases with you to see how things was going. It was my intentions to text you right behind her, but I got caught up in some other things, so I'm doing that now. Is everything okay? And he was like, yeah, everything is fine. So now the assistant is not really understanding what's going on. He doesn't know that they know. He doesn't know that they know that the phone is tapped. He doesn't know that. So he doesn't know how to confront the situation. He doesn't know how to confront the situation. And now the pastor deletes it off of his phone. He deletes that app off of his phone. And he texts Sidepiece number 1. And when he texts Sidepiece number 1, this is hours later. The assistant sees her on there. And he asked her again. Said, who are you talking to? Like that, right? And she doesn't mind. She ain't tripping. Because she knows what's going on. This is a ruse. And she said it was the pastor. He was just asking, you know what I'm saying, some questions about some things I had talked to him about privately. So the assistant goes into the restroom, and when he goes into the restroom, he pulls out his phone, and there's nothing there. Nothing there. And he comes back out. He said, you're talking to the pastor? He can't even wait. He's so upset when he comes out. He said, you're talking to the pastor? And she was like, yeah, see? She shows him the phone. And when she shows him the phone, he sees it's the pastor's number. And now he can't understand why it's not showing up on his phone. And he starts to think that the pastor may have figured it out. He may know. And then he dismisses that, but he said the pastor's not, technically savvy like that. Something's wrong. Something must have happened. He'll figure it out when he gets back home. So they stay down there for a week or so, and everything is fine and whatever. And she continues to talk to the pastor. The pastor texts him and calls him, but he's not getting these messages in real time like he used to when the phone was tapped. So he gets back down to the city, and he finds an opportunity to talk to the pastor, and the pastor's playing the role as if everything is fine. Everything has been just fine. So he asked the pastor, do I need to take care of anything else for you? Any kind of situations going on that I need to be aware of? And the pastor tells him, no, everything is fine. So the pastor leaves his phone on the desk, and he leaves the room. It's all a ruse. And when he leaves the room, his assistant quickly jumps up and he goes and grabs the phone, and he notices, he pulls up the apps, and he notices that that app and several other apps have been deleted from his phone. So while he's looking at the phone, the pastor walks right back in. And he asked him, he said, "What's going on?" And he said, "No, I was just looking at your phone." He said, "It rained while you were out." He said, "Oh, who was it?" He said, "No, it wasn't nobody. I just took care of it. You know what I'm saying? One of your flock had a question for you. I told him that you were busy." And he said, "Oh, okay, just leave the number and I'll call him back later." The pastor knows he's lying. The pastor knew that he was lying. So the pastor, knowing that everything is situated and straight now, and that the assistant knows that he's not going to be getting any more messages now, starts to clean up. He's still got that penitentiary thinking going on in his head. Can't trust nobody. It's all a con anyway. I'm getting my money, right? So now he goes to see his side piece number 2. He feels comfortable, emboldened. He goes to see her, and then he leaves. And for whatever reason, she changed her whole mood about wanting to see him. So she hits him up and she says, "Look, can you come and see me on such and such day? I got a party going on, this and that and the third." Wanted to introduce him to a lot more friends, right? And he said, "I can't do parties. Can't do parties." And she tells him, "No, this is a different type of party." He said, "What type of party is this?" So she comes all the way clean with him. She tells him that she's a swinger. And he said, "I most definitely can't do that." And she tells him that we'll have on masks. Nobody will know who you are. Nobody really knows the identity of anybody there. So this intrigues him. Now keep in mind, he's a pastor. But he's playing the role of a deceiver. When he should be a believer. He's really not doing any of that. Not doing that at all. So he tells his wife he's got to go out of town. And he ends up at this party. And he meets a couple of other women. And he finds himself in the room with his side piece number 2 and these 2 other women. And he's a pastor. And they videotape him without his knowledge. Because side piece number 2 is a hustler. She gets money. And the way she gets her money is through blackmail. Now she got the pastor on tape. He don't even know it. He don't even have a clue what's going on. He's thinking because he's taking care of his assistant, putting a little app on his phone that can monitor his phone calls and texts. He thinking he playing the big boy game. But he just stepped into the big leagues. He stepped in all the way into the muddy water with this one, messing with side piece number 2. Because side piece number 2 play for keeps. She play for keeps. She play the long game. So when that's over with and he goes back home, she hits him up and she tells him she needs some money. And when she tells him that she needs some money, she puts a little clip, a little video clip, about 10 seconds on his phone, right next to up under the message, right? And when she says, "I need some money," she tells him how much it is. It's like 5 racks. Then she sends him that video clip, and then he hits the video clip, and the video clip shows him in the bed with 3 women, all masked up. All masked up. And then the caption at the bottom of that video clip is like, "I got pictures of your face." He freaks out. Now don't forget, I told y'all that he had been in the penitentiary 3 times on an 18-year sentence. He done flattened it and come off of that everything. He's clear, right? But the preacher got friends in low places. He know people everywhere. People in the streets. People that he could call on to take care of some things for him, right? But it's going to cost him. He didn't care. This is all the hustle to him. But his wife don't know that. His wife don't know that. But he's put himself in a situation where it's hard to get out of this one. So he calls on a couple of old friends of his, and he tells them what had been going on. Not understanding that these old friends are still in the streets. And they tell him, yeah, they'll take care of it. But they're going to charge him 10 a piece. It would have been cheaper to pay the 5. That's what he told me. But then they hit him back and said, yeah, but she's going to keep coming back. And you only have to pay us once. So he tells them, get the tapes. Don't hurt her. I want all the tapes. Everything she's got. So they go pay her a visit. They get the address from the pastor. They sneak down there. They case the junk. They see a lot of traffic in and out. So they wait. Take a couple of days for the opportunity to come around so they could get up in there, right? So when the opportunity presents itself, she's coming home. She gets out of the car. She's going to the door. She got a bag of groceries. They go behind her. They force her into the house. They get into the house, and they pull off the mask. She don't know them, don't recognize them from a man in the moon. And she looks at him. She said, you here for the tapes, ain't you? They tell her. They tell her, yeah. Where the tapes at? She said, they're not here. I don't keep them here. She said, I keep them somewhere else. And they said, where are they? We want them. She said, who sent you? She said, who sent us? It ain't but one person. She started laughing. You think it's one person. She said, y'all playing little boy games. Y'all playing little boy games. She said, this is how I eat. She said, you can get a little piece of this if you want. And I can make you way more money than whoever's paying you. And she said, tell me who sent you. Tell me who sent you. So they look at each other and they think about it real quick. You got to remember, people in the streets now, they calculate real fast what's most profitable to them. Don't mean that it's always going to turn out, but they can calculate real fast. And then they looked at her and said, how many people we talking about? She said, every man that comes through here. And she said, I got all kinds. I got preachers, politicians, all kinds. And that's how I eat. So they thought about it. They said, we got to see it first. She said, I can show you, but I'm not going to show you. I don't know what you're going to do. And then one of the dudes looked at her. He said, come on now. I know you probably, if you're doing it like that, you got it in more than one spot. He said, but we're here for just one person. We get that. We roll out. We can get money on the side doing these other things, right? You can use some people like us. She said, I got people like you. She said, the thing about it is this. If I give you this tape, whoever you're looking for, if I give you this tape, who's to say you won't come back? Who's to say you won't come back? You know what I do now. And they looked at it. They figured it out real fast. They said, okay, I'll tell you what. Let us see the tape, the one we're looking for. You keep it. You give us a copy of it. And then we roll. We got to do it like that. And she said, who is it for? They looked at each other. They looked back at her. And at the same time, both of them said, preacher. She didn't even have to say which preacher. She knew exactly who it was when they said it. And she started laughing. She said, yeah, I'll give you a copy of that. But when you take it to him, let him know. This one's on me. This one's on me. The next one's going to be on him. And they said, we got you. Now, you want to hear what's going to happen in this next episode, you're going to have to tune in, right? You got to tune in. It's been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so tired.